morning. I'm baking bagels this morning. I'm sure somebody's wondering what I'm doing. I don't have much to say this morning, so I'm just going to recite a poem. It's a Pied Piper Hamlin by Robert Browning. Hamlin towns in Brunswick, by famous Hanover city, the river Weser deep and wide washes its wall on the southern side. A pleasanter spot you never spied, but when begins my ditty, almost 500 years ago, to see the townsfolk suffer so from vermin was a pity. Rats, they fought the dogs and killed the cats and bit the babies in the cradles. They ate the cheeses from the vats and licked the soup from the cook's own ladles. Split open the kegs of salted sprats, made nests in men's Sunday hats, and even spoiled the women's chats by drowning out their speaking with shrieking and squeaking in 50 different sharps and flats. At last, people in a body to the town hall came flocking. "'Tis clear," cried they, "our mayor is a naughty. And as for our corporation, shocking, to think we buy gowns lined with ermine, for dolts who can't or won't determine what's best to rid us of our vermin. You hope because you're all old and obese to find in the furry civic robes ease. Rouse up, sirs, give your brains a racking, find the remedy we are lacking, or sure as fate will send you packing." At this the mayor and corporation quaked with mighty consternation. An hour they sat in council. At length the mayor broke silence. "For a gilder eyed my ermine gown sell, I wish I were a mile hence. It's easy to bid one rack one's brain. I'm sure my forehead is the game. I scratch it so, but all in vain. Oh, for a trap, a trap, a trap." Just as he said this, what should hap? At the chamber door but a gentle tap. "Bless us," cried the mayor. "What's that?" With the corporation as he sat, looking little through wondrous fat. Nor brighter were his eyes, nor moister than a too long open oyster, save when at noon is quenched with muteness, for a plate of turtle green and gluteness. Only a scraping of shoes on a mat, anything like the sound of a rat makes my heart go pit-a-pat. "Come in," cried the mayor, looking bigger, and in did come the strangest figure. His long queer coat from heel to head was half yellow and half red, and he himself was tall and thin, with sharp blue eyes and each like a pin, and light loose hair and swarthy skin, nor tuft of hair on cheek nor beard on chin, but lips where smile went out and in. There was no guessing his kith or kin, and nobody could enough admire this tall man in his quaint attire. Quoth one, "It's as my great-grandsire, starting up at the trump of doom's tone, had walked this way from this painted tombstone." He advanced towards the council table, "And please, your honour," said he, "I am able, by means of secret charm, to draw all the creatures living beneath the sun, that crawl or swim or fly or run, after me so as you never saw. And I chiefly use my charm on creatures that do people harm, the mole and toad and newt and viper, and people call me the Pied Piper." And here they noticed round his neck a scarf of red and yellow stripe, to match with his coat itself saying check, and at scarf's end hung a pipe, and his fingers, they noticed, were ever straying, as if impatient to be playing, upon this pipe, as low it dangled, over his vesture so old-fangled. Yes, said he, Pied Piper as I am, in Tartary I fred the cam, last June from his huge swarms of gnats. I eased in Asia the Nizam, of a monstrous brood of vampire bats. And as for what your brain bewilders, if I rid your town of rats, will you give me 1,000 guilders? 150,000 was the exclamation of an astonished mayor and corporation. Into the street Piper stepped, smiling first a little smile, as if he knew what magic slept in his quiet pipe a while. Like a musical adept, below his pipe his lips he wrinkled, and green and blue his sharp eyes twinkled, like a candle flame where salt is sprinkled. And ere 3 shrill notes the pipe uttered, you heard as if an army muttered, and a muttering grew to a grumbling, and a grumbling grew to a mighty rumbling, and out of the houses came the rats tumbling, great rats, small rats, lean rats, brawny rats, brown rats, black rats, gray rats, tawny rats, gray bulls, spotters, game young friskers, fathers, mothers, uncles, cousins, talking tails and pricking whiskers, families by tens and dozens, brothers, sisters, husbands, wives, swallowed Pied Piper for their lives. From street to street he piped dancing, and step for step they followed dancing, until they came to the river Weser, wherein all plunged and perished, save one who stout as Julius Caesar, swam across and lived to carry, as he the manuscript he cherished, to Rat Homer's commentary, which was, at first, out the pipe, I heard a sound as of scraping tripe, and putting apples wondrous ripe, into the cider presses bright, and a moving away of pickle top boards, and a leaving a jar of conserve cupboards, and a drawing the corks of train oil flasks, and a breaking of heaps of butter casks, and it seemed as if voice, sweeter far than my solidaries breathed, called out, oh rats, rejoice, the world has grown to a vast dry saltery. So munch on, crunch on, take your nunch on, breakfast, supper, dinner, lunch on, and just a bulky sugar punch on, already stayed like a great sun shone. Gracious, scarce an inch before me, just as methought it said come for me, I found the Weser rolling over me. You should have heard the Hanlon people ring the bells till they rocked the steeple. Go, cried the mayor, and get long poles, poke out the nests and block up the holes. Consult with carpenters and builders, and leave in our town not even a trace of the rat. When suddenly up the face of the Piper perked in the marketplace. But first, if you please, my 1,000 guilders. 1,000 guilders, the mayor was blue, so did the corporation too. For council dinners made rare havoc, with Claret, Moselle, Vin de Gras, Pot, and half the money would replenish their seller's biggest butt of Rhenish, to pay this sum to a wondering fellow, a gypsy coat of red and yellow. Besides, quoth the mayor with a knowing wink, our business was done at the river's brink. We saw with our eyes the vermin sink, and what's dead can't come to life, I think. So, friend, we're not folks to shrink from our duty of giving you something to drink, and a matter of money to put in your poke. But as for the guilders, what we spoke of them, as you well know, wasn't joke. Besides, our losses have made us thrifty. 1,000 guilders, come, take 50. The Piper's face fell and he cried, no trifling, I can't wait beside. I promise a visit by dinner time, Baghdad, and accept the climb of the head Platot. All he's rich in, for having left in the Caleb's kitchen, of a nest of scorpions no survivor. With him I prove no bargain driver, with you don't think I'll fake to stiver. And folks who put me in a passion may find me pipe after another fashion. How, cried the mayor, do you think I brook, being worse treated than a cook, insulted by a rival, with idle pipe and vesture pibal? Threaten us, fellow, do your worst, blow your pipe there till you burst. Once more he stepped into the street, and to his lips again laid his long pipe with smooth straight cane, and ere he blew 3 notes, such sweet soft notes as yet musicians cunning never gave the enraptured air. There was a rustling that seemed like a bustling of merry crowds justling and pitching and hustling. Small feet were pattering, wooden shoes clattering, little hands clapping, and little tongues chattering. And like foals in the farmyard when barley is scattering, out came the children running, all the little boys and girls with rosy cheeks and flaxen curls and sparkling eyes and teeth like pearls. Tripping and skipping ran merrily after, the wonderful music was shouting and laughter. The mayor was dumb and the council stood as if they were changed into blocks of wood, unable to move a step or cry to the children merely skipping by. Could only follow with an eye that joyous crowd at the piper's back, and how the mayor was on the rack, and the wretched council's bosom beat as the piper turned from the high street to where the Wester rolled its waters, right in the way of their sons and daughters. How it returned from south to west, into Koppelberg Hill it stepped at rest, and after him the children pressed. Great was the joy in every crest. He never could cost the mighty toss. He's forced to let the piping drop, and we shall see our children stop. When lo, they reached the mountainside, a wondrous portal opened wide, as if a cavern was suddenly hollowed. The piper advanced, and the children followed. And when all were into the very last, the door of the mountainside shut fast. Did I say all? No, one was lame, and could not dance the whole of the way. And in after years, into explain the sadness, he was used to say, it is dull in our town since my playmates left. I can't forget that I'm bereft of all the pleasant sights they see, which the piper also promised me. For he led us, he said, to a joyous land, joining the town in just at hand, where waters gushed and fruit trees grew, and flowers before the fairer grew, and everything was strange and new. The sparrow was brighter than a peacock here, and their dogs outran our fellow deer, and honeybees had lost their stings, and horses were born with eagle's wings. And just as I became assured, my lame foot we speedily cured. The music stopped, and I stood still, and found myself outside the hill, left behind against my will, to go now limping as before, and never hear of that country more. Alas, alas for Hamelin, there came into many a burgher's pate a text which says at heaven's gate, opes to the rich at as easy rate as the needle's eye takes a camel in. The mayor sent east, west, north, and south to offer the piper by word of mouth, wherever it was men's lot to find him, silver and gold to his heart's content, if only he'd return the way he went, and bring the children behind him. But when they saw 'twas lost endeavor, and piper and dancer were gone forever, they made a decree that lawyers never should think their records dated duly, if after the day of the month and year, these words do not as well appear. And so long after what happened here on the 22nd of July, 1376, and the better in memory to fix the place of the children's last retreat, they called it the Pied Piper Street, where anyone playing pipe or tabor was sure for his future to lose his labor, nor suffered a hospital near tavern, to shock with mirth the street so solemn. An opposite place up the cavern, they wrote the story on a column, and on great church window painted, the same to make the world acquainted, how their children were stolen away, and there it stands this very day. And I must not omit to say that in Transylvania there is a tribe of alien people who ascribe the way of dress of which their neighbors lay such stress to their fathers and mothers having risen out of some subterranean prison into which they were trepanned a long time ago in a mighty band out of Hamlin towns in Brunswick land, but how or why they don't understand. So, Lily, let me and you be wipers of scores out with all men, especially pipers. And if they piped us free from rats or from mice, if we promised them aught, let us keep our promise. My first thought was he lied in every word, that hoary cripple with malicious eye, askance to watch the working of his lie on mine, and mouth scarce able to afford suppression of the glee that pursed and scored its edge at one more victim gained thereby. What else should he be set for with his staff? What save to waylay with his lies and snare all the travelers who might find him posted there, and ask the road? I guessed what skull-like laugh would break, what crutch can write my epitaph for pastime in the dusty thoroughfare. If at his counsel I should turn aside into ominous track which all agree hides the dark tower, yet acquiescingly I did turn as he pointed, neither pride nor hope rekindling at the end descried, so much as gladness some end might be. For what with my whole world wide wandering, what with my search drawn out through years, my hope dwindled into a ghost not fit to cope with that obstreperous joy success bring. I hardly tried now to repeat the spring my heart made, finding failure in its scope. Sorry, I missed that. No. I have a university education. The Canadian education system completely failed me. I had to go to university to be educated properly. The school I went to was pathetic. It was the worst experience of my whole life. But university changed everything. That just, yeah. I had to educate myself when I was in high school because my teachers were sad. Poor people. I shouldn't complain that much. Our universities are awesome. I had the best educational experience of my life going to university in Canada, and we have awesome. We have very good health care. I'm glad we have health care we have. Oh, shut up. Are you American? You need to start a relief fund for your own kids first. Donald Trump is about to make it a lot worse for poor kids in America. Yes. Yeah, but they're only available to rich, wealthy people. They're not. Canada here we have a little bit. We're a little bit better at it. We're still in equal society, but at least we're trying. I don't know. I grew up lower middle class, and look at me now, I'm a baker. Living the Canadian dream. Oh my God. we don't have socialism. You're a fool, man. Oh yeah, I love baking, but I mean, it's not a job with a lot of prestige. Not that that's what I'm seeking in life, By work assignment, you mean employment opportunity. A little bit of socialism is a good thing, in my opinion. Really, our government could be a little bit more socialist. Governments need to be socialist. They don't need to be capitalistic. Capitalism is that's something for the the market. That's an economic term. It should not be applied to the governing of citizens. Socialism is okay. It just means your government acts in the interests of its people. That's what socialism means. A government that acts in accordance with the will of its people. That sounds like a good thing to me. Bring on the socialism. Bring it on. I love socialism. I'm a proud commie. Comrade. As a sick man very near to death seems dead indeed, and feels begin and end the tears, and takes the farewell of each friend, and here's one kiss the other. My first thought was he lied in every word, that hoary cripple with malicious eye, askings to watch the working of his lie on mine, and mouth scarce able to afford suppression of the glee that pursed and scored its edge at one more victim gained thereby. What else should he be set for with his staff? What save to waylay with his lies and snare old travelers who might find him posted there? And as the road, I guessed what skull-like laugh would break where crutch can write my epitaph for pastime in the dusty thoroughfare. If at his counsel I should turn aside into ominous track which all agree hides the dark hour, yet acquiescently I did turn as he pointed, neither pride nor hope rekindling at the end descried, so much as gladness some end might be. For what with my whole world wide wondering, what with my search drawn out through years, my hope dwindled into a ghost not fit to cope with that obstreperous joy success would bring. I hardly tried now to rebuke the spring, my heart made finding failure in its scope. As a sick man very near to death seems dead indeed, and feels begin and end the tears, he takes a farewell of each friend, and hears one bid the other go. Draw breath freelier outside, since all is over, he saith, and the blow fallen no grieving can amend. While some discusseth near other graves be room enough for this, and when a day suits best for carrying the corpse away, with care about banners, scarfs, and staves, and still the man hears all and only craves, he may not shame such tender love and stay. Thus I had for so long suffered in this quest, heard failure prophesied so oft being writ, so many times among the band to wit, the knights who to dark towers search addressed their steps, the just to fail as they seem best, and all well was now should I be fit. So quiet as despair I turned from him, that hateful cripple, out of his highway into the path he pointed, all the day being a dreary one at best, and dim was settling into its close, yet shot one grim red leer to see the plain catch the stray. For mark, no sooner was I fairly found, pledged to the plain after a pace or two, then pausing to throw backward a last view, over the safe road 'twas gone, great plain all round, nothing but plain to the horizon's bound. I must go on, naught else remained to do. So on I went. I think I never saw such starved ignoble nature, nothing throve, for flowers as well expect a cedar grove, but chortle and spurs, according to their law, might propagate their kind with none to awe. You'd think a burr had been a treasure trove. No penury inertness in grimace, in some strange sort were the land's portion. See or close your eyes, said nature peevishly, in nothing skills, I can't help my case. 'Tis last judgment's fire must cure this place. Calcine's clods and set my prisoners free. As for the grass, it grew as scarce as hair and leprosy. Thin, dry blades pricked with mud, which underneath looked kneaded up with blood. One stiff, blind horse, as every bone is stared, stood stupefied however he came there, thrust out past service from the devil's stud. As for the grass, it grew as scarce as hair and leprosy. Thin, dry blades pricked the mud, which underneath looked kneaded up with blood. One stiff, blind horse, as every bone was stared, stood stupefied however he came there, thrust out past service from the devil's stud. I'm Bacon Bagels, reciting a poem by Robert Browning called Child Rollin' to a Dark Tower Came. Where was I? Hola. Where is that at? Where's that at? Oh, this is on Lonsdale and 17th in North Vancouver. We're called Rosemary Rock Salt. If you listen to the radio, you've probably heard one of our ads. I don't listen to the radio, so I've never heard. Hello from Istanbul. We're live from North Vancouver. My name's Steve. I'm a Canadian. Canadiense. Yo soy canadiense. The heart asks pleasure first, and then excuse from pain, and then those little anodynes that deaden suffering, and then to go to sleep, and then, if it should be the will of its inquisitor, the liberty to die. One day God said, this is what I'll do. I'll send down my son. I'll send him down to you to clear up this humpity-bumpity hullabaloo. His name will be Christ, and he'll never wear shoes. And his friends will call him the King of the Jews. He didn't come in a plane. He didn't come in a jeep. He didn't come in a boat, high-jumping boat. He rode on the back of a black Saskatoon, the blackiest creature you ever could view. He rode into Jerusalem, home of the grumpy Jews, where false prophets were worshipped, some even in twos. There was Murray von Murr and Genghis Vauvouz, the one you could worship taking a snooze. Christ spoke from a mound, which is a pile of ground, and people gathered around without making a sound. Thus he spake, sin and socks full of sin. How shall we quiet this Jehovah din? Do unto others as others do unto you. That includes you, Timothy Foo. And one Pharisee said to another he knew, what shall we do about this uppity Jew? Wash him in wine and make him all clean, and into Sam Biddle's crucifixion machine. Twirl the gorl and release the gablees, and in go the nails as fast as you please. And he said as he bled, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do, because they walk through this world wearing two crappity shoes. To you, amen. All I know of Christianity I learned from that poem. Actually, it's a skit by Kids in the Hall. It should be called a brief history of Christianity, because it is a thorough anthology. Hamlin towns in Brunswick, my famous Hanover city. The river Weser, deep and wide, washes its wall on the southern side. A pleasanter spot you never spied. But when begins my ditty, almost 500 years ago, to see the townsfolk suffer so from vermin was a pity. Rats, they fought the dogs and killed the cats, and bit the babies in the cradles, and ate the cheeses from the vats, and licked the soup from the cooks' ladles. Split open the kegs of salted sprats, made nests in the men's Sunday hats, and even spoiled the women's chats by drowning out their speaking with shrieking and squeaking in 50 different sharps and flats. At last, the people in a body to the town hall came flocking. 'Tis clear, cried they, our affairs are naughty, and as for our corporation, shocking to think to buy gowns lined with ermine, for dolts who canter won't determine what's best to rid us of our vermin. You hope because you're old and obese, find in the furry civic world to ease. Rouse up, sirs, give your brains a racking, to find the remedy we are lacking, or sure as fate will send you packing. At this the mayor and corporation quaked with the most consternation. An hour they sat in council, at length the mayor broke silence, for a gilder-eyed by ermine gownsel, I wish I were a mile hence. It's easy to bid one rack one's brain. I'm sure my poor head aches again. I scratched it so, but all in vain. Oh, for a trap, a trap, a trap. Just as he said this, what should hap? At the chamber door, but a gentle tap. Bless us, cried the mayor, what's that? With the corporation as he sat, looking little through wondrous fat. Nor brighter were his eyes, nor moister, than a too long opened oyster. save when at noon his paunch grew mutinous, for plate of turtle green and glutinous. Only a scraping of shoes on a mat, anything like the sound of a rat makes my heart go pit-a-pat. Come in, cried the mayor, looking bigger, and in did come the strangest figure. His long queer coat from heel to head was half yellow and half red, and he himself is tall and thin, with sharp blue eyes, each like a pin, and light loose hair and swarthy skin, nor tuft of hair on cheek nor beard on chin. The lips were smile when out and in, there was no guessing his kith or kin, and nobody could enough admire this tall man in his quaint attire. Quoth one, such as my great-grandsire, starting up at the trump of doom's tone, had walked this way from his painted tombstone. He advanced towards the council table, and please your honor, said he, I am able, by means of secret charm, to draw all the creatures living beneath the sun, to crawl or swim or fly or run, after me so as you never saw, and I chiefly used my charm on creatures that do people harm, the mole and toad and newt and viper, the people call me the Pied Piper, and here they noticed round his neck a scarf of red and yellow stripe, to match with his coat itself in check, and at scarf's end hung a pipe, and his fingers they noticed were ever straying, as if impatient to be playing upon this pipe, as low it dangled over his vesture so old-fangled. Yes, and Pied Piper as I am, ye tarry, I bred the cam. Last June from his huge swarms of gnats, I teased the nation and I am of a monstrous brood of vampire bats. And as for what your brain bewilders, if I rid your town of rats, will you give me 1,000 guilders? 50,000 was the exclamation of an astonished mayor and corporation. Into the street the piper stepped, smiling first a little smile, as if he knew what magic slept in his quiet pipe the while, and baking bagels and reciting poetry. I worked for Rosemary Rock Salt. I'm a baker. Into the street the piper stepped, smiling first a little smile, as if he knew what magic slept in his quiet pipe the while. Like a musical adept to blow his pipe, his lips he wrinkled, and green and blue his sharp eyes twinkled, like a candle flame where salt is sprinkled. And ere 3 shrill notes the pipe uttered, he heard as if an army muttered, and a muttering grew to a rumbling, and a grumbling grew to a mighty rumbling, and out of the houses came the rats tumbling. Great rats, small rats, lean rats, brown rats, black rats, gray rats, tawny rats, brave old plotters, gay young friskers, fathers, mothers, uncles, cousins, cocking tails and pricking whiskers, families by tens and dozens, brothers, sisters, husbands, wives, followed the Pied Piper for their lives. From street to street he piped advancing, and step for step they followed dancing, until they came to the river Weser, wherein all plunged and perished, save one who stout as Julius Caesar, swam across and lived to carry, as he the manuscriptly cherished, to rat land home his commentary, which was, the shrill notes of the pipe, I heard a sound as of scraping tripe, and putting apples wondrous ripe into the cider presses bright, and a moving away of pickle tub boards, and leaving a jar of conserve cupboards, and a drawing of corks of train oil flasks, and a breaking of hoops of butter casks, and it seemed as if a voice, clear far than my heart for by solitary breathe, called out, oh rats, rejoice, the world is grown to a vast dry saltery, so munch on, crunch on, take your nunch on, breakfast, supper, dinner, lunch on, and just the bulky sugar punch on, already stayed like a great sun shone, gracious, scarce an inch before me, just as thought it said come bore me, I found the West rolling over me. You should have heard the Hamlin people ring the bells till they rock the steeple. Go, cried the mayor, and get long poles, poke out the nests and block up the holes, consult with carpenters and builders, and leave in our town not even a trace of the rats. When suddenly up the face of the piper perked in the marketplace, for the first, if you please, my 1,000 guilders. 1,000 guilders! The mayor looked blue, so did the corporation too, for counterfeit they wear havoc, with clariable salve in the grove hot, and half the money would replenish their seller's biggest butt of reddish, to pay this sum to a wondering fellow, with gypsy coat of red and yellow. Besides, quoth the mayor, the knowing wink, our business is down at the river's brink. We saw with our eyes the vermin sink, and what's dead can't come to life, I think. So friend, we're not folks to shrink from our duty of giving you something to drink, in a matter of money in your coat. But as for the guilders, what we spoke of them, as you well know, was in joke. Besides, our losses have made us thrifty. 1,000 guilders, come, take 50. The piper's face fell and he cried, no trifling, I can't wait beside. I promise to visit by dinner time Baghdad, and accept the prime of the head cook's potage. All he's rich in, for having left in the king's kitchen, no nest of scorpions, no survivor. With him I prove no bargain driver. With you don't think I'll bait a stiver. And folks who put me in a passion may find me pipe after another fashion. How, cried the mayor, do you think I brook being worse treated than a cook, insulted by a rival, with idle pipe and vesture piebald? Threaten us, fellow, do your worst, blow your pipe there till you burst. Once more he stepped into the street, and to his lips again laid his long pipe of smooth straight cane, and ere he blew 3 notes, such sweet soft notes as yet musicians cunning ever gave them the rapture there. There was a rustling that seemed like a bustling, and merry crowds justling and pitching and hustling. Small feet were clattering, white shoes clattering, little hands clapping, and little tongues chattering, like foals in a farmyard where barley is scattering. Oh, came the children running, all the little boys and girls, with rosy cheeks and flasks and curls, and sparkling eyes and teeth like pearls, tripping and skipping them merrily after, the wonderful music, shouting and laughter. The mayor was dumb and the council stood as if they were changed into blocks of wood, unable to move a step or cry, to the children merrily skipping by. Could only follow with an eye that joyous crowd of pipers back, and how the mayor was on the rack, and the wretched council's bosom beat as the piper turned from the high street to where the western rolled its waters, wiping away at their sons and daughters. However, he returned himself to rest, and to Popplebrook Hill his steps addressed, and after him the children pressed. Great was the joy in every breast. He never could cross the mighty top. He's forced to let the piping drop, and we shall see our children stop. When lo, they reached the mountainside, a wondrous portal opened wide, as if a cavern was suddenly hollowed. The piper advanced, and the children followed. And when all were in to the very last, the door in the mountainside shut fast. Did I say all? No one was lame, and could not dance the whole of the way. And in after years, if you'd blame his sadness, he was used to say, it is all in our town since my playmates left. I can't forget that I'm bereft of all the pleasant sights they see, which the piper also promised me. For he led us, he said, to a joyous land, joining the town in just at hand, where waters gushed and fruit trees grew, and flowers put forth a fairer hue. And everything was strange and new. The sparrow was bright and the peacock here, and their dogs outran our fellow deer, and honeybees had lost their stings, and horses were born with eagle's wings. And just as I became assured, my lame foot would be speedily cured. The music stopped and I stood still, and found myself outside the hill, left behind against my will, to go now limping as before, and never hear of that country more. Alas, alas, for Hamelin, there came to many a burgher's pate a text which says at heaven's gate, opes to the rich at as easy rate, as the needle's eye takes camel in. The mayor sent east, west, north, and south, to offer the piper by word of mouth, wherever it was men's lot to find him, silver and gold to his heart's content, if only he'd return the way he went, and leave the children behind him. But when they saw 'twas lost endeavor, the piper and dancers were gone forever, they made a decree that lawyers never should think their records dated duly, if after the day of the month and year, these words do not as well appear. And so on to what happened here on the 22nd of July, 1376, and the better in memory to fix the place of the children's last retreat, they call it the Piper Street, where anyone playing pipe or tabor, be sure for his future lose his labor, nor suffer the hostelry or tavern to shock with mirth the street so solemn, and opposite the place of the cavern, they wrote the story on a column, and on great church window painted, the same to make the world acquainted how their children were stolen away, and there it stands this very day. And I must not omit to say that in Transylvania there is a tribe of alien people who ascribe the way and dress of which their neighbors lay such stress to their fathers and mothers having risen out of some subterranean prison, long time into which they were trepanned, a long time ago in a mighty band, out of Panlin towns in Brunswick land, but how or why they don't understand. So, Lily, let me and you be wipers of scores out with old men, especially pipers. And if they pipe us free from rats or from mice, if we promise them on, let us keep our promise. Bagels, baked bagels. Okay, well, good morning. I'm gonna shut the broadcast down. So, can't see anything here. My face is just glowing.